in high school and early college, like many millennials, I thought I sided with the Democrats. When the left began really doubling down on their harassment, well, quadrupling or on an insane scale, harassing, alienating, death threats of anyone who had the nerve to disagree with them, hold a different opinion, and those with the foresight to see that the feminization and Islamization of the once proud Western world was a path towards the destruction of all freedom, I began siding with the Republicans. When Donald Trump emerged as a Republican nominee for president, I watched his debates with the other candidates closely, eventually down to against only Hillary Clinton. I, like many others who held logic and personal responsibility as virtues, deduced that Trump in the debates gave the better answers. And I, like many, risked everything to support him. Also, like many of you, suffered immense slander and criticism for it, but I endured because I felt it was the right thing to do. For the first year, he seemed to be keeping true to his promises, though the building of the Mexican-American border wall was delayed. I struggled to find any job opportunities, accused by many of my own family members for being too vocal and marginalizing of others with my political opinions, even though I didn't bring them into that many conversations in everyday life. Now, like many conservatives, I'm faced with a very difficult problem. The $1.3 trillion government spending omnibus bill has passed, signed by Trump while I was out spending the day with my dad yesterday, March 23rd, 2018. And if any of it is actually implemented, it makes things even worse than before. I know that's hard to imagine, but very possibly, irreversibly, forever. North America stood as the last bastion of freedom even years after Europe opened its borders and gave up its arms. And look what has happened to Europe now. Rape rampant. No-go zones. People terrified of even speaking up about it. Tens of thousands of little girls molested beyond recovery. And I watched a little bit of Lauren Southern, band from the UK for actually quite amusing little social experiment. And Martin Selner and Brittany Pettibone banned as well. A lot of people silenced for trying to bring truth. I thought we valued truth. The people all over the world are willingly marching against their freedoms their ancestors worked hard for, fought and died for, in exchange for what they think will be safety, but you know how the wisdom goes. Trade freedom for safety. It's not just that you'll end up with neither, it's that you'll very quickly have neither. Freedom needs at least one fortress in the world. And all of us who sacrificed so many relationships in our lives, so many comforts and prospects for the future, so many jobs, so much for last push for reason and limitations on the corrupt powers of the world. We risked so much. For many of us, the only risk of that skill we had the endurance for in our lives. as we have had to tough it out through all the tedious, agonizing schools that were really not helping us prepare for the adult world at all. We put everything on the line for the control of the American borders, for the restoration of free market jobs, and for the cutting down of government spending. Stop pretending any one country can provide defense for every other around the world. It will never work. We know this. The entire purpose of an omnibus bill is to bury undesirable legislation in a mountain of papers that no one has the time to fully read or understand, to force a deal, should the bill be signed, that were its distinct pieces submitted individually, as they should be, would be almost certainly rejected, vetoed. Over 2,200 pages long. That's longer than almost, not only any novel, but series of novels. Who reads an entire series, let alone understands everything about it in a single week? It's an impossibility. And it's meant to hide things by its very construction. An omnibus is written to hide things that the people do not want. We absolutely did not support anything like this being passed. It bans the prototypes for the wall already built from being used. Instead funds the building of border walls in the Middle East, where we do not need to be going anymore. It is true that we need to rebuild our military, but not so that we can keep it spread thin around the world. It also grants scholarships for students from the Middle East. We need less college, not more. College and Social Security are huge money resource black holes in America that are not shrinking, and we need them to be. Now, I never actually expected Mexico to pay for the wall. Of course they were going to refuse. What Trump should have done was start building the wall early on in his presidency, maybe during the summer of last year, 2017, and when it was completed, given Mexico the bill then. Trump understood this. His own words during the campaign were, when people are coming up from Mexico, Mexico's not sending their best. They're sending rapists, gangsters, take the low-wage jobs, which are far better than no job at all from the black citizens. That's not Mexicans as a whole, but that is mostly who is crossing the wide-open border that we want closed. I thought we wanted rape and murder to decrease. This will increase it many times over if this wall is not built. So, what to do? I would say maybe at this point, if we want to go and build the wall along the Mexican border ourselves, let's do it. As far as the opioid epidemic goes, because there were funds in the bill for that, two things. First, parents, you need to protect your children from drugs. And that includes not drugging them. No more ADHD meds, no more painkillers, except for maybe the absolutely necessary after surgery or something. We all got the say no to drugs message at some point in our lives. It's time we start living by that. Personal choice, not more government programs. We also, despite this betrayal, cannot let the Democrats seize a majority in Congress in the November 2018 midterm elections. We cannot let that happen at this critical point. I know we're all exhausted. I know we're all upset, but we must fight, or we truly have only disaster, starvation, and civil war, likely even World War III in our very near future. It really is a case of give reason and freedom all we've got now, or we will never see it again. I know it looks like the Republicans failed. It certainly does. But this party is still some friction on the slippery, sliding plane towards the dark abyss of decades of war and invasions that we really did not want to see come. I don't know what happened here. Just a couple of weeks ago, President Trump was standing firm on the right to bear arms. Just last week, on Tuesday, March 13th, he himself visited the Mexican-American border wall and said it was insufficient, full of holes that had to be patched instead of being improved upon. It wasn't enough. You know, that day, I was judging the middle school kids section of a science fair, and the kids were very enthusiastic about their projects. I was talking with, I think it was 9 kids. It was originally going to be 10, but there was one no-show. 9 kids who had done months of work in the environmental field, and they were so excited about helping to save the world. Well, if freedom falls, the world will never be saved. Their projects will never be tested further. Great ideas, not only in actual science, not all the politically correct stuff, no. Great ideas in science and technology will never happen because the coming war, in one way or another, will destroy that future. South Africa's land has already been destroyed. Even the best farmers and ecologists can't restore it now. I spent a lot of years in school studying environmental science in hopes of becoming a conservationist, one who takes an actual assessment of the real problems and finds a way to address them. I was just 2 days ago interviewing for a project to help build a small nature trail around some wetlands area and forest property as a small-scale job to begin with. I said, well, let's start by taking a look at the area, the topography, where the water table is, what places we want to leave undisturbed, and where we can build a trail, hopefully above the water table. And I was supposed to be emailed the land maps on Monday. It seemed like it would have been a great start for me. I don't know how invested and enthusiastic I can be now. If the Western countries take in more people, try to fund any more programs that they can't pay for, you know what I mean. The debt goes up any higher without government spending being decreased. The conflict fueled by the racial and religious anger that's been stoked these past years will destroy the planet beyond any hope of recovery. There will be no real future for anyone. And we're not going to Mars. We are not going to Mars. That project can never be funded or plans tested now. All the evidence there will ever be of humankind on the surface of Mars will be the broken corpses of the rovers that went there already. In time, they'll be covered by the red dust. In the early 2000s, we were so close to building a grand future for the world. Many countries were. America tried to fight the wars of other countries for them, but that was never going to work. It's a simple lesson. You have to take care of yourself and your own family, in this analogy, your own country, before you can even begin to take care of others. How is it not the same on a national or even international scale? This weekend is the gigantic March for Our Lives on the Washington, D.C. Capitol, and similar marches all over the world, put together by activists and celebrities using children who only a month ago had been through a horrific experience to push for the mass seizing of firearms from American citizens who have, if nothing else, the right to defend themselves in times when their lives and their loved ones' lives are on the line. Does anyone care about the lives of the young today and those not yet born who wanted or would have wanted to live in a free world, surrounded by proud of their culture, loving, competent families. I can tell you those lives that soon look soon to be ruined exponentially outnumber 17. If this bill ends up being as bad as our worst fears. In the last video discussion I posted about the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas school shooting and the chaos that erupted afterwards, I will address the March for Our Lives rally in more detail in another video. I put forth this possible scenario: that the Broward County and the FBI, who were very well aware of Cruz's violent behaviors, instability, threats and crimes spanning 7 years, chose not to stand in the way of his killing spree. Not only because the country passed this terrible, county passed this terrible stop to arresting students after a certain number of incidents to make their districts look good, but also so they could jump on the trauma and reflex reaction of the children, use them, even though they think they're doing this march of their own accord, they are actually being used to the left's own ends and to their own ends as soon as the massacre took place. Though I hate it, it seems I've had my worst suspicions confirmed. If this is all indeed the case, then all the more confirmation that the gun rights themselves are hardly the true problem. Trump must be aware of this, so what is the reason for his sudden shift on the Second Amendment, along with this monstrous omnibus signing? The way I see it, maybe there's something I haven't thought of. The way I see it, there are 3 possibilities that explain why Trump signed the bill, and none of them are good ones. But let's go through the logic. 3 possibilities. 1. Trump caved. He caved to the Democrats after the months upon months of going at Trump from every possible angle. Barron being assaulted, the family being mailed strange powder, being impeded and blocked by the courts time after time, half the country hating him without any real grounds, the other half expecting so much, and the media wasting everyone's time with the Russia collusion lies. Eventually, there was one straw placed on his back that broke it. Second possibility. Trump never intended to honor his promises, which seems like the odd one out of the 3 possibilities, because he did spend a lot of time trying hard to get some things done. He responded well to the 2017 hurricane summer. He released some restrictions on businesses. He recognized Israel as a sovereign state. He's been pursuing negotiations with North Korea. He tried to come to a compromise, I think on 3 different occasions, with Democrats on DACA in exchange for funds to build the wall. And among other things, to have done all that while under constant slamming from the mainstream media, leftists all around, and all the social justice losers out there. I will not call them warriors. Warriors are people who protect their culture, so social justice, not warriors. Not intending to follow through on campaign promises from the beginning does come across as unlikely. I can't say the possibility is 0, but it still doesn't really add up. Third possibility, not the worst, but certainly very troubling, is that he's trying some very odd chess master maneuver strategy with America and the world here, trying to trap the Democrats somehow. Some people have posted videos trying to explain that. And some are trying to hold on to that hope. Here's the problem. We can't count on that. We just don't know enough of what goes on in politics behind the scenes or of what Trump's mental calculations are, so we can't rely on that being what he's doing. A lot of Trump's base are really pissed, and they have right to be. We were desperate for less government spending, not more. See, the national debt is in many ways analogous to credit card debt. You can be way in over your head in owing money that you don't have, that you still need to pay back, which we do. But if all you do is sign a deal, for example, to lower your interest rate, analogous to tax cuts, but increase your spending, well, you're not getting out of any debt at all. You're getting in deeper and deeper, just paying less and less back each installment. Eventually, you're going to go way beyond the point of never recovering. We have got to plead with Trump to cut spending. It's the only way to save our hope for a better future now. I may start up a petition for that, or if one exists, link it to me in the video comments. Now, I did watch Ben Shapiro's explanation of the bill, which helped me relax just a little. I really was not sleeping well last night after hearing of all this. People are really scared for the children's future. Well, I don't have children, but I have younger siblings. We're still pretty young. Maybe Trump has an idea of how to spend the money in the way we wanted, but until we learn more, there's not enough to guess on yet. If I were asked how to handle this, here is what I would strongly recommend first. God damn it, Mr. President, construct the American-Mexican border wall. That will do so much more to keep Americans safe than from drug cartels, rape gangs, bloody war, than shoveling billions of bills we don't have allowed by a bill written by people who don't know what they're talking about and certainly don't know how to keep it short and simple. Among a military that is already crumbling, unless he has these great plans to improve the military, but still cut spending. And second, you do need to be firm with North Korea and with Iran and Saudi Arabia and many others. Someone has got to step up and say to those countries, no, you're not getting funds. You're not getting nuclear weapons programs, and if you build and fire any missiles, we will shoot them out of the sky. That's the final word on that. You've got to stand firm and say that and not budge from that. Withdraw all funding from Egypt, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, all the Middle East, and any sane countries that want American defense, they have to pay for it. They have to pay for it. We can't keep paying for other nations' defense. We have got to get a grip and look after our own. Is that so hard for anyone to understand? I know we're exhausted. We thought we were on the road to rebuilding our lives. We have to fight again. We have to fight for our freedom. We have to, on a societal level as well as campaign level, we have to commit to no more false accusations. No more new types of speech. No more hate speech rules. No more microaggression bullshit. My God. No more multiple gender bullshit. No more drugging of kids. And if we have to organize our own massive protest march to put the ultimate pressure on our country to do so, it's getting close to, or maybe it is, now or never. So I will link to some videos you can watch and get some different takes on what's just happened. Draw some of your own conclusions. I would say, for the time being, we have a little bit to see what happens, maybe a week or two. You know, it's like they say in emergency disaster preparation. hope for the best. I want to believe that this was all some part of Trump's strategy, that he has he hasn't given up, he hasn't broken. But over the next few weeks, months, his base is really going to need to see evidence of that. That's the case. Don't despair quite yet, but watch things very closely. Hope for the best, but start preparing for the worst in case it does come. Because if it does, it will come quickly.